Dear students, welcome to the lecture on Kerberos Authentication System. This Kerberos Authentication System is one of the secure authentication mechanisms used in distributed computing systems. This is developed at MIT and it is one of the network authentication systems used till date. Means out of many several authentication systems developed up to now, this one, the Kerberos system, is the most popular one. Okay, this is nothing but a secure authentication system we will follow for authentication process. It is nothing but we will authenticate it via this authentication system. And coming to the Kerberos system architecture, here there will be in Kerberos system there will be three basic components: Kerberos server, client, and application server. All these basic components you can see in this figure. This one is the Kerberos server, the client mode, and the application server mode. We will see the explanation of this architecture now. I hope you all understood. Kerberos system architecture is one of the system architecture followed in authentication. And using this in this system architecture, there are three basic components. That is, the first one is Kerberos server, in which it consists with these three parts, that is Authentication Database, Authentication Server, and the Ticket Granting Server. We will see this one. The key component of this Kerberos system is this one, that is Kerberos server. It acts as a key distribution center, KDC, and this Kerberos server will have the authentication database. This database will store the user ID and password of all the users of the system, and it also shares the unique secret key with which each server in the system. What this authentication database will do means it will also have the server ID and the secret keys of all the servers in the system. Okay, and then database will store the records of user ID and passwords of all users, and also the server IDs and secret keys of all the servers in the system. Next, coming to authentication server, it performs the verifying task of any user identity at the time of login. During login time, it performs the verification of the user identity. We have seen that an authentication process will have the process of identifying and verifying. This authentication server will verify the user identity. And this one is having the facility of single sign-on facility, and a user has to enter his or her password only once at the time of the login, and no matter how many times he uses different resources, he can access any number of resources after one attempt of login. Okay, that is single sign-on facility. And the other one is ticket granting server. It performs the task of supplying tickets to clients, means it permits access to other servers in the system. All these tickets will are used to establish the connection, secure communication between the clients and the servers. Okay. Again, I am repeating. This is the Kerberos server consisting with three parts. This part consists with the database, that is user ID and passwords of all users and servers, including the authentication database. And here another one is authentication server, which verifies the user identity during login time. What this work, this component will do is it supplies the tickets to clients in order to establish the communication between client and the server. So this is used for issuing tickets. So these tickets are used to establish the communication channel between client and server for mutual authentication. Okay. And next, coming to the client component, this the second component of Kerberos system is a client process. Means this one, it runs on workstations and public places where consoles are available. Means where the systems are monitors are available. In that cases, it will ask for the authentication. So this Kerberos client node, this client process will be verified and on behalf of, after receiving this ticket, it will be verified by the ticket granting server and then start the communication. And the third one is application server. So the third component of Kerberos system is application server, or it can be simply called as a server. And this server provides the specific type of service to client upon request. It will accept the request only after verifying the authenticity of the client. So we can see that Kerberos provides a very good authentication mechanism, and here IDG means ticket granting servers identified, like that. As you have knowledge on these notations or terminologies, we have discussed more in cryptography, symmetric crypto systems, and even in authentication in our previous lecture also. I am not again explaining this terminology, but here the process of communication we will see in Kerberos authentication protocol. Here T is nothing but the timestamp when that message was generated, and starting time of validity of that ticket is denoted by SI, S1, S2, like that, and I stands for 1, 2, 3, so on, and TEI stands for ending time of validity of that particular ticket. In that ticket time validity only, the client process have to communicate. Okay. We'll see this via this example. So we know that the main components of Kerberos are authentication server, database, and ticket granting service. See here in the step 1, the user will log on and request services on the host. So this the user request for ticket granting service. And in the second step, the authentication server verifies user access right, and it uses the database and then gives the ticket granting ticket to this user. It gives the ticket, and results are encrypted using password of a user. In the third step, the decryption of the message is done using the password and then send the ticket to ticket granting service. The ticket contain the authenticators like username and the network address. So in the step 4, the ticket granting will send the message, and the user will decrypt the ticket by using this user's authentication, and he verifies the requests. And in the step 5, he will ask the request to the server. The user sends the ticket to the authentication to the server. The server will verify the ticket and gives access to the service whichever required for the user. So this is the Kerberos authentication protocol. So here it gives the identification. First one we have seen just now. The login process, any user will give message via M1. Authentication server will validate it and it generates the message M2. It contains the identity of the client and the ticket granting server identification number and this ticket timestamp, starting time, ending time, and the key. And that M3 will again send that message to ticket granting service. After verification of the authentication server identity, it generates and sends a message M4 in an encrypted form. Like that, the process will go on and the client process will send it to the server. After authentication verification only of that client, the server will process the request of the client and that one will be passed via M6. So this one I have explained you that about authentication server is A, ticket granting server G, C is the client and S is the application. So we have seen in this Kerberos architecture in one network, but when there are multiple networks, means with one single Kerberos server, it is not appropriate to all the users and servers to register that single single Kerberos server. So what happens means a subset of users and other servers along with the Kerberos server will register in one ring. Ring is nothing but we can think it as a group of in a group of networks. One network will consider as one ring and another network will consider as another ring. So it is nothing but you can think it as a region. Okay? And for this, the Kerberos server of one ring will register with the Kerberos server of all other rings, so that when a client, see here, the client of this ring communicating with the application server of another ring. Like that, whenever a client wants to access to access a server in different way, means we have seen that application server will authenticate the user, then only it accepts the request and services will be further serviced. So for this purpose, this client want to communicate with the server, means he want to get the services on another link. In such case, he has to first make a request for ticket granting service of its own ticket granting server, and after getting that access to the ticket granting server on another link, after that after obtaining that service, means service granting ticket, then only the client makes a request for the application server. See here M1 is request for ticket granting ticket, which is in his own ring. Okay. After getting the reply of M1, he will make a request of service granting ticket to access the remote ticket granting server. So I want to take the remote ticket, please grant it, like that M3. M4 is the reply for M3. After getting M4, it will get the permission and it will request the ticket granting server on another link. After that, after checking the identity, it will send the message via M6. Then it gets permission to access the services in application server. So M7 access the request. This is internally authentication protocol of Kerberos, where we will divide the subset of users and servers along with the Kerberos server into rings, different regions. So some limitations also there in Kerberos, in which it is not effective against password guessing attacks, and it depends upon loose synchronization of locks of the nodes, And another problem with Kerberos is that it is difficult to decide the time limit for the tickets. Here we are using timestamps. No? What is the time limit of that ticket? Means if that ticket time end time is lapsed, the client cannot communicate with the server. Before finishing, if the time has been lapsed, the communication will end in a failure manner. So it is one of the problem to difficult and decide the appropriate lifetime of that particular ticket. If the lifetime of that ticket is more, then the client may do or misuse it for any other purposes. Without this ticket, he cannot communicate with the server. So it is another limitation. I hope you all have understood this Kerberos authentication system. Thank you.